Good morning/afternoon/evening, everyone. As we step into 2025, I want you to ask yourself a simple but powerful question. What would my life look like if I focused entirely on my own growth, my own peace, and my own happiness? For too long, we've been conditioned to measure ourselves against others, what they achieve, how they look, where they go. But the truth is, comparison is the thief of joy. And this year, it's time to take that joy back. For years, we have been taught that vulnerability is a weakness, something to hide, something to be ashamed of. We've been told to toughen up, to never let them see you sweat, and to keep our struggles hidden behind a polished exterior. But what if I told you that vulnerability is not a weakness, but the greatest strength you can cultivate in 2025? Vulnerability is the birthplace of courage, growth, and deep, meaningful connection. It takes immense bravery to stand in front of the world unguarded and say, this is who I am, this is what I feel, this is what I fear. It is in these moments of raw honesty that we discover our truest selves. Think about it. Every meaningful experience in life requires vulnerability. Love requires the risk of rejection. Success requires the risk of failure. Creativity requires the risk of judgment. The people who make the greatest impact in this world are not the ones who play it safe. They're the ones who dare to show up fully, imperfections and all. Too often, we avoid being vulnerable because we fear being judged, misunderstood, or hurt. We put on masks, build walls, and try to convince the world that we have everything figured out. But in doing so, we cut ourselves off from real growth. Strength is not about pretending to be invincible. Strength is about acknowledging that we are human, that we feel deeply, and that sometimes we need help. In 2025, I challenge you to stop hiding behind perfection and embrace the beauty of being real. Let go of the need to impress and focus instead on being authentic. If you fail, own it. If you're struggling, reach out. If you have a dream, chase it, even if it terrifies you. Vulnerability is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. It is the key to unlocking your potential, because only when you allow yourself to be truly seen can you truly grow. One of the most powerful acts of self-care you can commit to in 2025 is setting firm, unapologetic boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are the framework that protects your peace, energy, and well-being. If you do not set boundaries, the world will set them for you. And more often than not, they will leave you drained, overcommitted, and emotionally exhausted. Too often we say yes when we really mean no. We feel obligated to attend events we don't want to go to, answer calls we don't have the energy for, or help people who never return the favor. We stretch ourselves too thin, believing that if we just give a little more, work a little harder, or accommodate one more request, we will finally feel appreciated, valued, or loved. But here's the truth. Overextending yourself does not earn you worth. It only depletes you. Setting boundaries means recognizing that your time, energy, and emotions are precious. It means understanding that you do not have to be available 24/7, that you are not responsible for fixing everyone else's problems, and that saying no is not selfish, it's necessary. Boundaries are an act of self-preservation, a way of telling yourself, I matter too. But here's the challenge. Setting boundaries is hard, especially if you've spent years being a people pleaser. You might fear disappointing others. You might worry that people will think you're rude, unkind, or selfish. But the reality is, the people who truly respect and care about you will also respect your boundaries. The ones who get angry or try to guilt trip you, they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries in the first place. In 2025, I encourage you to start setting boundaries in every area of your life. Personal boundaries. Protect your mental and emotional space. If someone constantly brings negativity into your life, you have the right to limit your interactions with them. Work boundaries, you are not required to be available at all hours of the day. Set clear limits on your workload and don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Social boundaries, you don't have to attend every event, respond to every text immediately, or engage in conversations that drain you. Give yourself permission to step away. Emotional boundaries. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions at the expense of your own. You can be supportive without absorbing their stress or pain. When you start enforcing boundaries, something amazing happens. You begin to reclaim your time, your peace, and your self-worth. You begin to fill your own cup before pouring into others. And most importantly, you begin to show up for yourself in ways you never have before. In a world that constantly bombards us with curated images of success, beauty, and achievement, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparison. Social media, advertisements, and even well-meaning conversations with friends and family can make us feel like we're not doing enough, not achieving enough, or not living the right kind of life. But the truth is, comparison steals your peace, your focus, and your ability to truly celebrate the life you're creating. 2025 is the year you stop looking at others and start looking inward. It's time to fully own your story, all of it. The triumphs, the setbacks, the highs and the lows. You are the author of your life. You decide what your narrative will be. And when you stop comparing your path to someone else's, you give yourself the freedom to walk it fully, unapologetically, and on your own terms. It's important to remember that no one else's success diminishes yours. We live in a culture that often tries to pit us against each other, making us believe that someone else's achievement means less room for our own. But the truth is, the world is abundant and there is more than enough success, happiness, and opportunity to go around. Just because someone else gets a promotion, lands a deal, or experiences a milestone doesn't mean that there isn't room for you to have your own breakthroughs. Your life is not a race, it's not a competition. It is your unique journey, unfolding in its own time and in its own way. The dangers of comparison robs us of the joy of our own accomplishments. You might have achieved something significant, yet instead of feeling proud, you start measuring your achievement against someone else's. Maybe they've achieved more, maybe they've done it faster. You start to downplay your success, telling yourself, well, it's not as impressive as theirs, and just like that, the victory you've worked so hard for is diminished. But this mindset is not only damaging to your sense of self-worth, it also keeps you stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and frustration. The problem with comparison is that it's an unfair fight. When you compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You don't know their struggles, their failures, their moments of uncertainty. You only see the finished product. And if you're constantly comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, you will never feel satisfied. Celebrate your unique path. In 2025, I challenge you to redefine success on your own terms. What does a fulfilling life look like for you, not for anyone else? What are your values, your passions, your dreams? Begin to set goals based on your personal vision, not someone else's. Your journey is entirely your own. The challenges you've faced, the lessons you've learned, and the victories you've celebrated are all a part of your unique narrative. You don't need to match anyone else's pace. You don't need to live according to someone else's timeline. Maybe you're taking a different route than you originally envisioned, but that's okay. Maybe you face setbacks, but those setbacks don't define you, they shape you. The key is to embrace your story fully and to stop apologizing for it. Own the parts of your story that may not be glamorous or Instagram wisely. Embrace the moments of struggle, the times you stumbled, the failures you learned from. They are just as important as the victories, and they have made you the person you are today. Without those challenges, you wouldn't have the resilience, the wisdom, or the depth of character that you do now. The power of self-acceptance. To own your story means accepting who you are right now, imperfections and all. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you start to celebrate your individuality. You stop seeking validation from external sources and start seeking it from within. You begin to trust that your worth isn't tied to how many followers you have, how successful you appear, or how quickly you achieve things. Your worth is inherent and it is not dependent on what others are doing. This is an act of radical self-acceptance. It's about stepping into your own skin, looking in the mirror and saying, I am enough just as I am. My story is enough. I don't need to be anyone else because I am already who I am meant to be. Let go of shoulds and create your own vision. One of the most damaging things comparison does is make us believe we should be living our lives a certain way. You should have your dream job by now. You should be married with kids by a certain age. You should have achieved X, Y, and Z. But here's the thing. There is no universal blueprint for a fulfilling life. Your path is yours to create, and it will look different from anyone else's. The moment you let go of what you should be doing and instead focus on what you truly want to do, everything shifts. You free yourself from the constraints of societal expectations, family pressures, and even self-imposed deadlines. And once you do that, you open yourself up to the possibility of truly living a life that feels authentic, joyful, and meaningful to you, not based on someone else's standards. In 2025, one of the most transformative shifts you can make is in how you treat yourself. We often hear about the importance of being kind to others, but how many of us extend the same kindness and compassion to ourselves? It's easy to be gentle and forgiving with the people we love, but when it comes to ourselves, we tend to be much harsher. We're quick to judge, criticize, and berate ourselves for our perceived shortcomings or, mistakes. But the truth is, self-compassion is not a luxury. It is a necessity in a world that often values achievement over well-being and productivity over rest. We've become conditioned to push ourselves to the limit, never allowing room for mistakes or setbacks. But self-compassion allows us to take a step back and treat ourselves with the same understanding and love that we would give a dear friend. It's about acknowledging your humanity, embracing your imperfections, and knowing that you are worthy of kindness even when you fail. At the same time, self-compassion is not about excusing or ignoring mistakes. It's about understanding that being human means you will stumble, fall, and face setbacks. But these moments are not a reflection of your worth. They are part of the learning process, part of your growth. And when you treat yourself with compassion, you free yourself from the cycle of shame and guilt that so often keeps us stuck. The power of self-compassion is about being gentle with yourself when things go wrong. It's about acknowledging your feelings without judgment and accepting that you don't have to have everything figured out. Life is not a straight line. There will be highs and lows, twists and turns, and moments when you feel completely lost. But rather than criticizing yourself for not having everything together, self-compassion allows you to embrace those moments and say, this is part of my journey. When you fail or make a mistake, self-compassion encourages you to respond with kindness rather than self-criticism. Instead of spiraling into negative self-talk or beating yourself up, you acknowledge the disappointment, but you also recognize that failure is not the end. It is simply a lesson, a stepping stone on your path to growth. Moreover, self-compassion means forgiving yourself. We hold ourselves to standards that we would never impose on others. If a friend made a mistake or encountered a challenge, we would offer comfort, reassurance, and understanding. Why then should we expect ourselves to be perfect? The act of forgiving yourself for past mistakes and imperfections is liberating. It allows you to move forward with a sense of peace, knowing that you are not defined by your errors. When you cultivate self-compassion, you create space for growth. You stop fearing failure because you no longer see it as a personal attack on your worth. Instead, failure becomes an opportunity to learn and improve. And most importantly, you begin to feel more connected to your own humanity, more accepting of your limitations, and more empowered to take risks. Courage to face yourself. Courage is often associated with taking bold actions in the face of external challenges. Standing up for yourself, taking risks, or stepping into the unknown. But true courage starts from within. It is the courage to face yourself honestly, to confront your fears, insecurities, and vulnerabilities. It is the courage to show up in your life every day, even when you don't feel ready or perfect. It is the courage to be yourself in a world that often tells you to be someone else. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move forward in spite of it. This is where self-compassion and courage intersect. When you are kind to yourself, you give yourself the strength to face your fears. When you treat yourself with understanding, you create the mental and emotional space to take action, even when uncertainty looms. Courage is about stepping into the unknown with a deep trust in yourself, knowing that even if you stumble, you will be there to catch yourself. Think about the moments in your life when you've faced something difficult, whether it was starting a new job, navigating a challenging relationship, or confronting a personal fear. In those moments, you had two choices: to run away from the discomfort or to lean into it. Courage doesn't mean that you are fearless. It means that you are willing to face your fears, to push through the discomfort, and to continue moving forward. But to do that, you need to be kind to yourself when things don't go as planned. The relationship between compassion and courage, when we pair self-compassion with courage, something extraordinary happens. We allow ourselves to take risks without the crippling fear of failure. We give ourselves permission to grow, to evolve, and to learn from our mistakes. Courage without self-compassion can lead to burnout or a harsh, critical inner voice. On the other hand, self-compassion without courage can lead to stagnation, avoiding challenges, and settling for less than what we are truly capable of achieving. Together, they form a balanced approach to life that allows you to embrace both the joy and the pain of growth. When you are kind to yourself, you stop trying to prove your worth. You no longer need external validation or success to feel good about yourself. Instead, you cultivate a deep sense of inner confidence and peace. You trust yourself to take action, even when the outcome is uncertain, because you know that you will treat yourself with care regardless of what happens. And in turn, this self-trust becomes a wellspring of courage. The courage to change and grow part of self-compassion is the recognition that you can change and grow without having to be perfect from the start. Change is difficult and growth is uncomfortable, but when you treat yourself with compassion, you give yourself the space to evolve at your own pace. You no longer feel the pressure to meet arbitrary standards or to become someone else. Instead, you focus on the person you are becoming, and you support that growth with love and patience. This year, have the courage to take the first step, even if you don't have all the answers. Have the courage to start that project, pursue that dream, or confront that fear. And when things don't go according to plan, meet yourself with compassion. When you fail, be gentle. When you succeed, be humble. And throughout it all, keep showing up for yourself, trusting that every step you take, no matter how small, is a part of your journey toward becoming the best version of yourself. And as we step into 2025, remember that this year is yours to shape, yours to embrace with vulnerability, set boundaries with unwavering strength, own your unique story, and cultivate both self-compassion and courage. This is the year you stop living for others' expectations, stop comparing your journey to anyone else's, and start prioritizing the one life you have to live. Focus on yourself, not as an act of selfishness, but as a powerful, intentional commitment to your growth, well-being, and happiness. Recognize that you are worthy of the same love, patience, and understanding that you freely offer to others. Treat yourself with compassion when you stumble and have the courage to rise again. Own your mistakes as lessons and celebrate every victory, no matter how small, with pride. This is your moment to step fully into who you are, to trust in your own abilities, and to create a life that feels true to you. The path may not always be smooth, but with each challenge, each setback, and each triumph, you will become stronger, wiser, and more confident in your ability to face whatever comes next. 2025 is a year of possibilities, and the greatest possibility of all is the one that lies within you. Focus on yourself, because when you do, you create the foundation for everything else to fall into place. You are enough. Your journey is enough. And you right now are exactly where you need to be